Good evening, Chief.
Evening.
Okay, we ready? So I want to welcome everybody. I'm calling meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. And Jessica, if you'd perform the roll call, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Joe Piscinary,
I'm here, thank you.
Brittany De Alicante,
Present, thanks.
Barry Lind, Michael Bean,
Yep.
Jonathan Hayes,
Present.
Carla Berg.
Here.
Welcome. Terry Dillon,
Present.
Adam Jenkins,
Present.
Jen McCauley,
Here.
and Eric Adams.
Present.
Roll call is complete. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've all received the minutes from our last meeting. Does anybody besides me have any changes to it? Okay, Jessica, what I noticed was under number four, committee response. At the very end, it says for the officers involved and ultimately ended, should have the the word with in it, I believe. With the suspect surrendering.
Correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I have just one more, and that is Eugene PD has had a drone team for many years instead of has a drone team for many years.
Thank you. Yep.
As well, the next sentence, the most well-developed teams, plural.
Kombucha.
I'm sorry, what?
I just wanted to make sure that people watching knew this was kombucha.
Okay, so can I have input into any other input into the prior meeting minutes?
I
And
move
if
to
not-
adopt.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Brittany. All in favor? Aye. Hand raised. Thank you. And next we have business from our audience.
Madam Chair, before we do that, can we introduce the new members to the old members?
I'm sorry, did we not do that last time?
Oh, I wasn't here last time, so
Well, let's.
is that, did we do that? I just
Yes,
approved the
but we can do it again, just so you know. So if the new members, Adam and is it Carla? And one other person.
Jonathan.
Thank you.
Well, welcome. I'm Michael Bean. I know you haven't met me because I wasn't here last time, so
I'm
glad.
Adam Jenkins. Small business owner and father of two, Thurston Elementary, and just glad to be a part of something here with the advisory committee to help in any way I can.
Thank you, Adam. Carla, do you want to talk?
No.
That's right, you can't talk. This is Carla.
Yeah. Hi.
Carla has cold and has lost her voice.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Hayes. I'm your friendly neighborhood fireman. And eager to find another opportunity to serve the community. So I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, so now we can have business from the audience.
I see Barry.
You what?
I see Barry.
Oh, hi, Barry.
My apologies. I just have been going and I'm late, obviously.
Would you like to take over?
I can, you just let me know where we are and I will, I again apologize.
We're about ready to read the public testimony will be received during business from the audience.
Okay, I'll jump into that. So public testimony will be recorded tonight. As a reminder, as I said, the meeting is being recorded. The committee will listen to your comments but will not respond to public comment until the committee response portion of the meeting agenda. Meeting minutes will be taken by staff and forwarded to City Council and to City Manager. Members of the public can share and always send written testimony to the committee or City Council. As we begin our meeting tonight, I'd like to ask members of the audience to please keep yourselves on mute until you're called to provide public testimony. Public testimony will allow speakers 2 minutes each for a total of 20 minutes. If you're joining us online with a tablet, smartphone, or computer, wish to speak either of those times, please use the raise hand feature to make your request. You will be called on when it's your turn to speak. Please identify your name, Springfield ward number, and the subject you would like to speak about. For people calling in by phone only, you are in listen mode only and cannot be called upon. And so at this time, we will receive any comments from the public.
Thank you. I do have an individual ready to speak. It is Shay Gallagher Starr. I have given you access to speak.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. This is Shay Gallagher Starr. I live in Ward 6 in the Thurston neighborhood. And my counselor is Counselor Pictionary, so hi. And I'm calling tonight, first off, to thank the Springfield Police Advisory Commission for suggesting that we form a citizen review board in our community, civilian review board. And having looked at the problems facing communities and community policing across the U.S. with a great deal of interest over these past several years. I have seen relationships between communities and their police departments really take a 180 turn in a positive direction when CRBs are introduced. I think citizens feel like it gives us a measure of control, ability to be heard and recognized, and to ask for accountability and transparency that we don't always feel is there in our communications with the police department. So I'm strongly in favor, and I really appreciate that you've brought this issue up, and I'd really like to see it go to our city council as a whole and to proceed positively from there. Thank you so much for giving me the time to make comments tonight, and thank you all so much for your ongoing hard work. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next individual to speak this evening is Kevin Shaper. And I have allowed you to speak.
Thanks, Tiffany. Hi, I'm Kevin Shaper, and I live in Ward 2. I strongly support the proposed recommendation to council for this committee to institute a police oversight commission or civilian review board to provide intentional oversight to this department. I moved to Springfield in 2005, and in that time, we've seen so much economic and quality of life change. It's really wonderful. And I can say that in that time, I used to call the department for regular, boring neighborhood stuff like car break-ins, and they're always quick to respond. In 2020, when comfortable folks like me who always received what quote unquote good service started to take a deeper look at policing, it was eye-opening to take another look at news stories that I had noticed but not put much thought into, to read lawsuits filed not just by victims of police violence or their families, but even members of the department. There was a clear pattern of behavior, a consistent through line of departmental culture. For example, if you've read about Chief Smith's affair and resignation and the similar allegations about other officers around the same time, in addition to reading about the earlier behavior of Officer Hal Toonan, then the details of the Amanda McIntyre lawsuit were just not a surprise. I really see this committee as having gone on a similar journey. I never attended the meetings before they went virtual, but I've read the minutes and I bring up my own focus and relationship to say that when I criticize those meetings as not showing much of consequence, that I'm criticizing myself too. And you folks have really stepped it up. Thank you. So while many of us weren't paying attention, this department harmed numerous people and racked up over $9 million in lawsuit settlements, while Eugene was a tiny fraction of that, even though they're 3 times the size, rendering our city nearly uninsurable. We've been forced onto the high deductible plan, and we're lucky to have even that. The city could easily spend another $1 million. The lawsuit's still in progress. I know that Chief Scherer believes this burden is his alone, but it's not. It belongs to the whole community. I know that there are some members of the council who might resist stronger oversight. But if you've been in charge while we racked up this $9 million, you can't just say, no, we've got this. So I hope that the joint session with council and this committee will talk about the CRB. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker this evening is Carlin Kephart. And you should be able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Carlin Kephart, and I am in Ward 6. And thank you all for giving us some time to speak this evening. I also just wanted to really express my appreciation to the subcommittee for recommending this Police Oversight Commission in the annual report. Long overdue and much appreciated. So I am very much in support of this recommendation in light of the need to improve the public trust in Springfield Police Department. And this piece of additional accountability and transparency is a great first step. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you.
The next individual to speak is S.J. Lohr. And you should be able to speak now.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the subcommittee. We really appreciate you guys putting forth what sounds like some great recommendations for the committee approved to bring to the city council. And I just want to say again, thank you. Thank you very much. Our household absolutely has been affected by the policing in our community negatively. And I really would love to see a civilian review board get put into place, and as well as an independent oversight police auditor, just like the Eugene Police Department has. But the civilian review board is a great first step in continuing to make these quote changes of transparency that the new chief of police has been putting into play. So I'd also like to say thank you to him, because it seems as if maybe we actually as a community are moving forward in the right direction. So thank you guys all for your time, and we are looking forward to seeing a civilian review board hit the city council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next individual to speak this evening is Monica Olson, and you should be able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, hi there. I'm Monica Olson over here in Ward 4, and I as well have had a couple of layers of negative experiences with police over here in Springfield, Eugene, and out of state. So I have a little bit of experience in what not to do and what to do possibly. I also wanted to show my support enthusiastically for the Civilian Review Board, and also say that if this is to come to fruition, I would love to join it. That's how enthusiastic about this board I am and how much I show support. And I'm going to end it with that.
Thank you.
That is the last individual indicating they'd like to speak this evening.
Very good. Thank you to those that shared with us tonight. We appreciate your interest and taking the time to share with us. Now is an opportunity if anyone from this team, this committee wants to respond to what they just heard. Michael.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, the subcommittee made the recommendations and we present it to SPAC for their review, adoption, and endorsement. When that happens, it would be presented to the council.
Yeah, I thank you for, you not only wrote that, but said that. I appreciate that clarity because we will tonight later in this agenda look at the recommendations, and it really does need to be supported by the SPAC as a whole. So thank you. Any other comment? Just didn't want to miss anyone. Okay, we'll move on, and we will be coming back to that later in our meeting tonight. So we jump now to business from the Springfield Police Department. Chief, please.
Thank you, sir, and welcome everybody. It's good to see you all again. A few quick updates before we jump into the cell phone policy, which is on the agenda. So we have Officer Garcia Cash that was recently selected as one of our new canine officers. He just completed the 160-hour basic dog handler course. And when they go through this 160-hour course, they have to pass the Oregon Police Canine Standards, which are administered by the Oregon Police Canine Association trainers from a different agency somewhere. So now they're officially certified, trained, and we'll be adding Officer Garcia Cash and his partner Griff to our patrol ranks. We'll see him out there doing some good work, hopefully very soon. On a sad note, I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to meet or work with Jack Martin over the years. He passed away a couple days ago at the age of, I think, 83. So just in my short time here, he was a fixture every Friday morning before the sun came up. He's here at the back door, greeting cops as they came into work, greeting people coming off a long night shift. I mean, he was the first one out there, opening the door for folks, helping them put stuff in their cars. Just a super nice man. And he served as part of SPAC from 2008 to 2021. He graduated from the Springfield Police Citizens Academy in 2001, and he'd been a volunteer at the PD since 2008, up until just recently before he had some medical issues. So we're extremely sad about that, but he was a perpetually positive person that put a smile on our face every day and provided a little perspective to us when, we come in thinking you had a hard day at work and you see Jack there, 80 some years old, holding the door for you. It really was a nice way to start the day for us. As far as staffing goes, we're still down roughly 12 vacancies, and that's a lot for this department. We're working diligently, recruiting. We're swearing in a new lateral police officer here in about a week. We recently reopened the lateral officer position. We've got a lot of interest from some other agencies around the state. So we're kind of taking some people on ride-alongs and really doing the best we can to recruit them to come work here at SPD. We have 3 officers that are currently with coaches here that we hired a number of months ago. They're due to go off to the police academy later this month. That's been delayed quite a while because of COVID, but they'll be off at this 16-week academy starting here towards the end of this month. And finally, I think we all know it's Black History Month, and where we're going to strive to kind of honor the triumphs and recognize the challenges of African Americans, but specifically here in Springfield. And so our goal, the SPD social media team's goal, is to focus on local leaders, volunteers, and others that have impacted us right here in Springfield. And so I look forward to highlighting some of our African American community right here at home over the month ahead. So the cell phone policy is the one that we have on the agenda to talk about. We recently, just in the last couple of weeks, and this has been a multi-month project that Jess and Tiffany both have played a huge role in, to get to issue smartphones to all the members of the department. Smartphones are a tremendous tool for cops. I think a lot of agencies have them. I was frankly surprised that we didn't have them when we got here. There's a number of things that we can do on the phones, and there's an unlimited amount of things we can potentially do on the phones with this basically handheld computer. I mean, you all know that. We can capture images and videos for evidence, note taking, creates situational awareness because we can potentially see where our other team members are. Say if we're on a perimeter or doing some kind of a search in a neighborhood, we can see where each other are, which is extremely helpful. You can do language translation on it with some simple things like Google Translate and then some more advanced software as well. In alignment with like our officer wellness programs, like if you have Apple Watches and things like that, you have the ability to monitor heart rate and things like that, which are going to be very helpful for us. When it comes to investigations and kind of that rapidly evolving stuff that we deal with on the street, there could be stuff that's evolving that we can share with other officers immediately by pushing, whether it's a picture of a suspect vehicle, a face that we took off of surveillance camera for something that just happened, and we can just blast that out instantly to all the officers across the board. And so you're not limited to just what's in the police car. You can be out on foot, on a perimeter, on a big tactical incident, doing a variety of things. And now you've got the ability to share this info immediately back and forth. So the cell phones are a tremendous tool, and I think we can go on and on about how helpful they are, but I know every one of you probably has one sitting on the desk right in front of you. So you know how much of an asset they can be. When it comes to the policy, we totally rewrote this policy, and it's rather long, but the gist of it is these are very tightly controlled. It's like a city computer. There is no expectation of privacy on this. We have a mobile device management software, and what that does, it allows our IT department to configure them the way we want to prevent people from putting things on there that we don't want on there. It allows us to remotely locate the device. We can do over-the-air distribution of updates to make sure the phone's all up to date. Members are mandated to carry it when they're on duty. And the messages that are created, sent, stored, or retrieved on all this equipment, phones, computers, everything, can be reviewed and audited by city personnel. Their city property, everything on it is evidentiary. There is no expectation of confidentiality or privacy for the members that are using these, since they're city computers. We will audit all the phones on an ongoing basis, and any unauthorized applications that were found on a phone would be removed. The department phones can be accessed at any time by our IT department. There's a long list of prohibited activities in the policy, and I'm not going to read all of them, but I mean, you can't do work outside of official city business on it. You can't look at anything, offensive, obscene, anything like that. You can't solicit or support political or religious causes. Of course, you can't harass anybody with it. You're prohibited from downloading any software off the web without authorization. Jokes, junk mail, chain letters, buying, selling stuff, that's all prohibited. No music, no videos. You cannot access your personal social media accounts on them. And you're prohibited from just trying to disable any of the software that we as the city put on it. So I guess what I'm getting at is if you do stuff outside of the boundaries of what's in this policy, it's prohibited, potential discipline for doing so. But I don't foresee that being a problem. There's a great tool. People still have their personal cell phone to do all their whatever stuff they got to do on their personal cell phone, but to be able to give them a city phone to do this is going to be a tremendous asset. And frankly, I think it's a risk mitigation effort too, because you don't want to mix work and personal stuff on the same device, because then that's all access and that can open up a whole big can of worms. And I think it's much cleaner for everybody to have a separate work phone and a personal phone, especially when we're accessing criminal justice data, because you can't be sending search warrants and pictures of suspects and police reports and things like that back and forth on personal phones, because that's basically, you're not supposed to do that. It's prohibited. But in the past, I think the agencies all over the place have just had to do it because they haven't had the luxury of having a work smartphone. So that's something we just provided, and I think everybody's pretty excited about. Does anybody have any specific questions about the cell phone rollout or the policy in particular?
It's a pretty good policy. We have that. We issue cell phones. We get them by the case to give to all our therapists and counselors. So we can track them and they're safe. And that's a good policy. Cover everything.
That's a pretty thorough one.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, Terry, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, is each officer assigned a specific phone, or is it just, you just pick up a phone and go?
Nope, they're assigned their individividual phone with their phone number. And another benefit of that is, you can give your phone number to people if you want them to get a hold of you, you have detectives that might get a text message or a phone call at 2 a.m., because somebody says, hey, the suspect just showed up at my house. So I
Right.
think it's going to make us much more effective in our investigations rather than just leaving a message at the front desk that
Mhm.
the officer might be gone for days and might not get it until they get back. So I think it's going to kind of allow us a better investigative tool for closing out cases as well.
Thank you.
But
Joe,
Thank you, Barry. Quick question, Chief. Excuse me. The city purchasing these phones and the previous policy or past practice of paying per diem on a monthly basis to cover cost, that goes away. As far as their staff getting paid or a reimbursement on that internet/smartphone access, correct?
there was a monthly stipend that people could get to help pay for their personal phone that I actually stopped that several months ago because the idea of somebody using a personal phone for work business, that's not okay. And so I discontinued that stipend several months back. People had cell phones that they were issued, but they were old flip, they weren't smartphones. It's an old flip phone. So all you can do is make a phone call. And frankly, most people just weren't using them because it wasn't convenient. They would use their own personal phone. So unfortunately, we forced them to use those for the few months until we could roll these smartphones up. But to answer your question, no, there's no more stipend.
Okay, just looking at the fiscal end of things, sounds like a great plan to me, and it is definitely great control. So let's move forward.
want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Any other questions on the department issued smartphones policy? Very good. Chief, any other items that you want to share with us tonight or talk with us tonight?
No other items for me. I'd be happy to talk with you more about the next policy that's on your agenda, but nothing else for me right now.
Perfect, thank you. So as a SPAC, we have taken on the opportunity to review different policies and bringing them up as we meet. And so we are reviewing the with persons with this. Hopefully you've had a chance to read that. And Chief, is there anything you want to say about it as you are familiar with it more than potentially us, and anything you would summarize about it?
Well, I think just to add before you start discussing it, because I don't think it's really outlined in here, essentially this VRI services, we have an iPad. And so when we need to access VRI service, it's a service that we have. And so we can bring the iPad, the watch commander will bring an iPad out to the scene. So people that are visually impaired, we can do sign language on it. They also provide some language services. So sometimes they could translate through it. So I just wanted to clarify before we started that this VRI services, typically how we administer it is through an iPad that we bring wherever we need to communicate with folks.
Okay. So committee, as you've looked through it, or do you have comments or questions that you want to raise as you looking through this policy? Brittany.
I have a quick question about the iPad. Is that something that's like carried in all the vehicles, and or like how, I guess if like they're doing, if like an officer is on patrol and they encounter somebody who needs that service, how do they then like acquire the VRI?
That's a great question. The watch commander, who's the sergeant on duty, has it. So whether he's out in the field or responds from the station, he would bring it out there. But that, as you mentioned, that just brings up a point. We just gave everybody cell phones. So I'm curious to see if this VRI is accessible by everybody on the scene with their cell phone. So we essentially can just, administer this immediately instead of having to wait for a sergeant to get there. So that's something I'm definitely going to look into.
Other comments or questions or just reflection from this policy? Let me ask this. Do you all feel like you've had adequate time to look through it and a chance to read it through, so you felt good about it tonight? Yes, Mike.
I've read it through, and it's pretty standard. We have to do all that also. So it's all real familiar. And then again, even more thorough than what we do. And we get reviewed every year.
Okay. Thank
There's
you.
one thing to add in there, when it comes to using translators, when we use professional translation services, language line. And I don't know, I'm curious, Michael, when it comes to using friends or family members to translate, we really do not want to do that. We try in every possible case, unless it's some emergency situation, to not do that. I'm just curious if that's something other organizations follow as well.
No, we allow that in our mental health programs, but we try to have another objective interpreter.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then if it's okay, let's move on to the subcommittee's annual report draft. And I think the key word there is draft. I want to begin by just saying to Michael and Brittany and Jen, how much I appreciate the time and energy I know that you all put into this. When I'm reading it through and see how substantial it is and how thorough it is, I'm realizing you all did excellent work. So thank you for that. And then again, I appreciate Michael's clarification that this is a draft for us to discuss and needs to be approved, whatever we choose to then share with the city council. So as I look through it, my thought is to begin with the next steps in discussion. There are 3 recommendations there. We have heard from some folks in the community, obviously, that have seen the draft and they're voicing their support. I want to make sure we've had the discussion, because I think in my time as being a part of the committee, we have discussed that our role wasn't overseers. And I don't know that we discussed this recommendation to this extent. So I want to make sure we've had the discussion for everyone and get feedback from everyone, because what we send, we want to represent as much as possible, all of us. So as you look, there are 3 recommendations there. And so maybe we just take the first one. Based on the prior 18 months of community engagement with SPAC, oversee a public process for consideration and implementation of a police oversight commission or similar body. So Eric, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks. I was curious if the subcommittee had discussed what the, I guess, potential roles, responsibilities of an oversight committee would be. And then if so, what the relationship of that oversight committee would be in relation to the Springfield Police Advisory Committee.
You want to grab that, Brittany? Or you want me to jump in?
I see Jen put her hand up too. So either
Jen?
maybe Jen can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, Jen. I didn't see that hand go up.
No, thank
Pictures
you, Eric.
change
I
on my
think-
screen, and so
No.
I was trying to keep it
All
on
beige
everyone.
today because I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize. So I feel for Carla because she and I are suffering similarly. I think that that's an excellent question. Thank you so much, Eric, for bringing that up. I think the purpose of starting down this path was as we were preparing and reviewing the document and putting together the executive summary and reviewing what we had done, perpetually, it seemed that this committee had struggled with their role, and we've brought in the city attorney, and we've gotten a lot more clarity, and I believe that it's become increasingly clear our engagement role. So our support of facilitating communication with the community and the department, whether it's through the new structure of just openly reviewing policies, whether or not there's specific questions, just an opportunity to have those elevated and in the public arena a little more regularly. But what it seemed like in a lot of the public comment was that there was either A, a confusion, or B, a desire for a layer of oversight that does not belong to this committee. And I think that
at least on my end, for the portions that I helped craft, which Brittany did a phenomenal job of taking on and jumping in on these next steps. We welcomed the committee's wordsmithing and helping us better describe. So these were very much draft, but I think the goal was not to prescribe, but to really bring that to council and say, here's what we heard from your community. And as your committee, we're recommending that you look into different options or different ways in which the community could be involved in a discussion about whether now is an appropriate time and what it would take to create a layer of oversight. Because it's become very clear that that is not the purview of this committee as currently designed, and that there is an element of interest in that. And so it was our goal, rather than prescribe it for, so with your question, Eric, rather than prescribe it for council, just to say, this is what we're hearing, and you may want to look into a process to evaluate whether or not this is important. Brittany, did I capture?
Yeah, no, I think that was perfect. That was exactly how I was conceptualizing it too. That this was just kind of our way of saying, hey, council, this is something that you would want to look into. We don't know what exactly you would think is the best way to do it and what the implications would be for this existing committee. But that, yeah, it was just, again, that liaison role, like this is what we were hearing when we went back and reviewed all the minutes and public comment and all that. And that it kind of culminated in this.
Great, thank you.
So I appreciate Jessica putting this up for us to see. I really now only see about 3 people. So if you're just going to need to speak up, if you have comments, but I'm still working on the first recommendation and wanting to make sure that we have a sense that that everyone has had an opportunity to speak into this. Joe, please.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That's a ton of work, and I really appreciate the effort that you guys put into this. It's covers a long time, and it is overdue. I agree with that. And I can't, and for the life of me, I've been looking at this document, and I know I read somewhere that there was some 2022 goals written somewhere, and I don't know where the heck it went. So I apologize if someone can find that.
Yeah, they are yep, there we go. Jessica's amazing. She'll have that on there. And the reason that those are slightly separate from the recommendation is, again, where we've sort of struggled to draw that line. So things that kind of belong to us, continuing to elevate policies for additional review, continue to work on our bylaws, which charges us with helping be a part of a long range plan, those types of things, versus the things that really we felt didn't fall within the committee's purview.
So my comment was that I think that it's putting it out there that it's a SPAC goals for 2022, and there hasn't been any discussion with the SPAC regarding those. So I think that it's kind of a misleading, that I think maybe it could be worded such as subcommittee goals or subcommittee targets for SPAC committee. But it appears as though that, the beginning of the documents indicates that in full partnership with SPAC, but some of these things I haven't heard or have seen at all before until this document came out. So I think that I think it'd be more accurately put that if those are areas that need discussion to determine whether or not those will be actual goals of the SPAC. If that makes any sense.
It does. This is a draft, Joe.
Yeah.
And then we brought it back to the SPAC. They can,
Oh yeah, no, I get I get the draft, but it indicates SPAC goals for 2022. And I think that's with the public reading this, it implies as though that the committee has set those as goals. And I do see it says draft all the way across there. But
well, it was we were assigned to write the SPAC annual report, not a subcommittee annual report. Now we've submitted this and it's up to be edited, changed, so it comes from SPAC. It wasn't an intent to subjugate SPAC.
Oh yeah, I'm not thinking it was some sort of
so it would have
dark object.
Yeah, so it was written as a SPAC annual report. That was our charge.
Okay, it just, when I read that, it just appeared as though it was putting on the source of that was different than what the actual source was.
I know two hands are up, but we go to Brittany and then to Terry, please.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was just going to suggest that yeah, my interpretation was that this was kind of the opportunity for us to discuss this. And if folks wanted to give feedback about the goals, this is exactly when we would do it. And then it would be, you know, truly a SPAC goal setting opportunity.
Terry?
Well, in my mind, Joe, were you just questioning whether we need to change this heading? If that's what you need, then I totally agree that this needs to be subcommittee for SPAC goals.
I just think that when you have the public reading these documents, it causes some, we know, or you know what the process is, but the public is seeing this and they don't, you know, what they see is their reality. And so I just think we need to be hypersensitive to the fact that whatever documents are placed out here and in the public, that we need to make sure that it doesn't create confusion, because Lord knows there's enough confusion and it causes anxiety with individuals. And I'm just trying to minimize that so we have a clear process. And this draft obviously is in process. And you said earlier, Michael, that it's just that. It's a recommendations for the policy, not policy, but for the SPAC to review and then make a recommendation towards council. So
no, I had no idea that this was going to be put online.
Yeah, well,
everything, or addressed it with a cover page.
Yeah, everything.
When I found out, I immediately called and said, "Whoa!"
Right. So and there's different items in there that I think that's causing some consternation, and I know it's all coming from a good heart, but because people grab onto some things when that can be, we can help prevent that. I think it would help a lot of people and lower that consternation in the public's eyes. When it doesn't need to be. I'm just trying to do some damage control, so to speak, when we want to make sure that process is very clear. And I said back in April that the council is interested, and if there's policy change recommendations, the council's willing to listen to them. That's A-okay. But I just need to make sure that the council, because we get these copies, that they understand, the rest of the council understands that is not the goals that the SPAC has put forth. It is those are the recommended topics of discussion that the SPAC will take under advisement and provide some input, further input. It's a work in progress.
Sure. Yeah, we were appointed by the SPAC to write it for SPAC.
Yeah,
and we're a subcommittee appointed by SPAC. I agree, but it's not a subcommittee report. It was taken.
Eric, go ahead.
Thanks, Barry. Joe, I'm curious if this were presented in its current format to council, would it cause some confusion or uncertainty on council's behalf that goals were being presented by just a subcommittee and that hadn't been fully vetted or discussed by the full committee prior to our meeting with them? I believe it's on the 22nd.
Yes, I think it would cause confusion.
And so I guess is this sounds like it's probably our opportunity to run through these and at least provide some comment or consensus on whether or not we want to forward these as our goals. And if not, then maybe pull them from the report and just simply make a statement that we're in the process of finalizing goals for 2022 with these considerations in mind.
Yeah, I think just cleaning up the process and making it understandable and no confusion. I'm not trying to get too picky, but I know that with all the documents that come across the desk, wording is very closely looked at, and interpretation or any type of representation from an entire committee takes on a whole different form than information that's being forwarded up from subcommittees to those committees. So it's kind of like the horse before the cart, kind of.
Yeah, I agree. This was submitted to be edited and come out as a full SPAC recommendation. We did not expect the subcommittee to everything to be adopted And that's part of the process. And tonight is
Right.
supposed to be part of the process.
I have a friend who says whenever he sees the word draft, it means something's not right. And so that was, I appreciate again, the subcommittee working on this and giving us the opportunity to go through and then try to come to a consensus on what we want to present to the city council. And we've kind of jumped to two different places. And Jessica's been so quick to go from one to the other. Brittany, I think your hand's back up. If I could, I'd love to go back first to the recommendations. Is that okay if we first start there and then take the second part of the report and we can approach those goals then? Brittany, did you want to say something?
Well, it was in relation to the goals. So if we're going to come back to that, then I'll save my comment for later. Yeah, no biggie.
Okay, yeah, if we, let's first look at this first page. And I want us, because this is really important, because this is what we're saying, hey, as a SPAC, we want to recommend to the city council to consider these items. And so I want to get a sense of the team's comfortability, a sense of agreement with this. Do they feel good about it? If you could speak into that and we have a sense of consensus with that, then we can take that first. And I only again see some people, so if you want to speak into it, please do.
Barry, was that you talking about the bullet point number 1?
Initially, we started with 1. We kind of jumped, and I'm still content to go back to number 1.
Right.
And
that was my fault.
That's okay. It's okay. But that's a very important one, and I want to make sure. Brittany, go ahead.
I was just going to add too, if people have suggestions for questions, that would be super helpful. That was an area where we were having kind of some trouble generating ideas. So if people have ideas for questions as well, I mean, like, yes, all of it, awesome. And then the questions is one area I just really wanted to highlight too, that we were hoping to get some guidance on from the rest of the committee.
Thank you. Eric?
As far as the first recommendation for the Oversight Commission is, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the language correctly. So is it that SPAC would be involved with and oversee that public process for consideration and implementation of a police oversight commission, or is council in that
Council.
role?
Yeah, it would be council. So I think that I'm so glad that we're coming back to this, because I fully agree with the statements that were made earlier. Like, the goal of this was to put forward a draft for this committee. The charge of the subcommittee, as we understood it, was this committee wanted something to react to. And so I think that this sort of captured our initial thoughts, and the purpose of what we believe this evening was to sort of wordsmith that. As we've gone through this, it's been really clear this is not our purview. And again, we are a subcommittee of the council. Essentially, we're appointed by the council. And so this is just our feedback to them of what we've heard over the last 18 months. So I think what the committee was aiming for here is not additional duties for the SPAC, but for thoughts to take forward to council and say, council, from our committee, these didn't belong to us. These belong back in your wheelhouse more. And we're hoping that these are things that you would take under advisement.
As they see fit. I brought up, because I think I'm one of the longest serving members, that we were sort of COVID disbanded. And then we were brought out of mothballs after, I think it was the Thurston incident. And so we went right to Zoom. And for the first time, we started getting tons of public input. And we never received that for all the years I've been on SPAC. And we started becoming a release valve for a lot of community members who were quite upset. But again, that's not our charge. So we just wanted to sort of pass it on, that the community use this SPAC forum for a lot of their grievances, which isn't our charge. So going forward, that should be something the council would address. I don't think it's fair for SPAC to every time there's an incident in the community to be doing all that. So I think that's where it came from, because I think we did a good job. We were that release valve for the community. And it didn't exist before.
Awesome. So in terms of edits to this recommendation, would it be helpful, do you think, for clarity if we added somewhere in here? So it says, based on the prior 18 months of community engagement with SPAC, council oversee a process for consideration and implementation. Would that kind of help clarify? Okay, I'm noting this down, and so I'll be sure I'll get that edit in there. Thank you all for that feedback.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that does make it a little clearer that it's not a process we are engaging. And obviously we don't have any authority to, we can just say from what we've heard, the way I heard Jen say it, what we've heard, we would like to recommend that the city council consider. Yeah, is how I heard Jen say it. And that's what I'm trying to land on. Can we feel comfortable with that? Joe?
As long as we're wordsmithing, I think I think it would be smoother if, and I agree, Brittany, when you talk about with the request the council to oversee a public process to consider and possibly implement a police oversight commission or similar body. These other words are pretty bold, so to speak, I guess, or pretty like saying this is what you are to do, as opposed to sending it over in a I don't know, I guess, for lack of better terms and softer terms, and making it, providing that ownership for the council, as opposed to taking, you know, I don't know, it's awkward. I feel awkward, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
I can soften it up for you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
It's fine.
I think the goal that you're going for is we're looking for recommendations, not directives. Because again,
just
trying to like put it into what belongs in our wheelhouse.
I know the
versus what
council
belongs elsewhere.
Make it a little. Totally.
I know the council pretty well, so I'm just saying.
Totally.
Again, Jen, I think you said it well. We're making considerations, recommendations, not directives. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so do we have a somewhat consensus that first recommendation with potentially some wordsmithing there, we're going to feel comfortable with as an entire SPAC? I wish I could see everybody because I'm wanting kind of just that. Okay, Terry.
Yeah, thank you. Will we be able to see the wordsmith document prior to? Because don't we present this on the 22nd of this month? So. Okay.
And I'm going to be honest, this will be the first time I've ever been a part of that meeting. And so it's going to be kind of a learning experience, I think, for all of us. Michael, have you ever been a part of that?
No.
Okay. So
Sit next to me, Barry, we'll be good.
Yeah, we so I'm suggesting, I'm sure we can see it again. We probably won't be gathering again, but I assume then we can have the same dialogue, but it's going to be pretty focused time. The city council isn't going to want an hour with us potentially. So okay, Carla.
So yeah, we are getting a little bit pressed for time. And one of my concerns around wordsmithing is generally when I see that happens, it changes intent sometimes. So I'd like us to come up with a plan for how we are going to agree on any new verbiage before we stop discussion on this.
Yes.
Yeah, I might defer a little bit to Jessica on that in terms of the public records laws there, but if I had to start like helping brainstorm a plan for that, is maybe the subcommittee can go back and make our edits and then submit a final version that can be circulated via email. And then if folks have any concerns, would have the opportunity to express it that way. Just a starting point.
It's a good starting point. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, it seems to make the most sense. Thank you.
I have to say, I don't think that there, I mean, I think if there's discussion, it needs to be public meeting, and that's kind of why we were trying to handle that here. So what does seem reasonable is to agree upon a modification, kind of like we do the minutes. You guide me to the language, you agree upon what that language should be, and then I execute those changes and then present them for approval. You can approve them with the edits. We can circulate those edits prior to, so you see them in effect, but I don't think there's going to be back and forth opportunity unless you call for an additional meeting.
Thank you.
Oh,
Joe?
I'm sorry, Counselor.
Yeah, I would agree, Jessica, that we couldn't circulate it. It would violate the open meetings laws. Excuse me. Excuse me, but if it causes, if those recommendations or my comments would cause the process to stumble or not work or whatever, then don't change it. Send it through.
My first thought would be that if we start to get honed in, that I appreciate all of the thoughts on this. If we get honed in, if folks could send their more wordsmithy type edits to Jessica, and my sincerest apologies, Jessica, for sending that your way, but that way it's all to staff rather than between one another. And I think that you could do a phenomenal job of putting those all together.
I am a go team, but especially in this is a SPAC document. I'm not doing any minutes, any summary. So I will follow instructions like nobody's business. Outside of that, I would say I don't want to have any type of decision making. So if you want me to convert this to Word and pull out my typing skills, I am a rock star. I'm on it. But outside of that, I'm going to go ahead and bow out on that.
I think, Eric, you have your hand, and then we'll go back to Brittany.
Thanks, Barry. So I'm wondering if there's value, despite the fact that there may be the need for further refinement of the recommendations or the goals, and simply presenting them to council, in their current form, with some commentary on the discussion that we've had this evening, to let council know that we're still in the process of doing exactly that, refining them, and at least provide council with an opportunity to weigh in and comment on those for the time being, under the assumption that we would have a later opportunity to bring it back to them in final form for formal adoption, or whatever the process may be at council. I think it's important. The work that's been put in by the subcommittee is really valuable. This is the first time we've gone through this process as a full committee, maybe ever, but certainly within the last 18 months. And I don't want to. I think it would be unfortunate to not take advantage of that work and the value of it, for reasons of just simply not having enough time maybe this evening to come to a final product.
Brittany.
Jessica read my mind, of course she did. I was going to suggest that if it's that bullet that we're if it's the goals and the first bullet in the recommendations that we're wanting to wordsmith, I think we technically have 30 minutes left in the meeting time. And I think that should be enough time to add those edits that we just discussed, and then maybe actively just in this meeting wordsmith it all together. And that way we can have a final product to deliver and give to council by the 22nd.
Let's see what we can do then. I think we were pretty close on that first bullet point, really.
And I can back my notes. Oh, sorry.
And I want to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I thought we were pretty close. we did make it, we were interested in making a simple change, making it clear that we weren't going to, there's, it is right there. Jessica's amazing. Okay, so as you see that right there, the first bullet point now, it's just a simple change, but we're making it clear that this isn't our process. We're just, from what we've heard, we are asking City Council if they would consider and potential oversight or similar body. And how about this now? Are we comfortable with that first bullet point? Let me say it this way. Is anyone not comfortable with it? Okay. I'm trying to be efficient with time. And so if I'm off task, you're going to need to let me know. Okay. So then let's move to the second bullet point. Including existing SPAC committee members in the selection process for new committee members and utilize city values mission statement as a part of the criteria for evaluating applicants. Yes, Joe.
So I may be able to save some time for people here. I did consult with the city attorney today in regards to this matter. And I want to be able to clarify it with folks, is that basically I was told that, well, the recommendation makes sense, but it is not within the SPAC's scope because it involves administrative matters. Those matters, the SPAC is a council committee and makes recommendations to the council in matters of policy. Hiring a police chief or any city employee except for the judge and city attorney is a city manager administrative task. Also, the charter prohibits the council from involving itself in any way on these personnel matters. If a SPAC member wants to make this recommendation to Nancy, the city manager, you can definitely do so, but it needs to be made clear that they are speaking as an individual and not on behalf of the SPAC. So that kind of clarifies that. The hiring process of the chief is very open, very public. Everybody is always welcome to come and meet the candidates, speak with the candidates, et cetera, and provide input. But if you have any specific things that you would like addressed in that hiring process, then you are highly encouraged to contact the city manager directly, but not as a committee.
Any questions to that statement or comments?
So we're on bullet 3 now, just to be sure. Or did we decide we were going to bullet 2? I think
Joe connected both 2 and 3.
Okay. So I was just confused. I'm not sure which one we're talking about now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Joe connected
I
both
thought it
2
would
and
be a
3.
time saver.
Yes.
Got it.
So while we may think it's wise for them to take input from us, I hear what is being said is it's out of our lane per se. Terry.
Well, I was just going to ask if Joe, are you suggesting that we take those 2 bullets out?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's fine.
Whoops, sorry.
It's fine if individuals have their opinions and provide those directly to the city manager. But you got to understand is that the city council by charter cannot even involve itself in any manner on personal or administrative issues with personnel.
That totally makes sense, Councilor Kushner. Thank you. I'm wondering though, so that makes sense because the chief is is an administrative. I get that, but the committee members of SPAC, I'm confused as to how that is because council directly appoints those people. Those don't run through the city manager's office, do they?
They're a political appointment. Everybody here.
Exactly. Which is different than the chief being hired as an employee, correct? And so if I'm,
it's a personnel matter, not personal, personnel matter that because it's an administrative matter, and that's with any employee, not just the chief or directors, it's any city employee, directly falls under the purview of the city manager, and council members cannot by charter involve themselves in any manner in regards to that.
Yes. Yeah, I totally understand that. What I don't understand is SPAC committee members are not
Sorry.
employees. Yeah, Jen, I'm like,
No, that's okay.
Oh, no,
I
think-
apologize because I did miss the last portion of our meeting. I popped out for a second, but so if we think about it, we are still technically publicly appointed. That's why we have to have meetings in open meeting, and we don't have email exchanges outside about SPAC business, et cetera. And therefore, the only person's process that we would potentially have any recommendation to the council on would be when they were reviewing a new city manager, because the council has a employee, and the council's employee is Nancy, and we are by extension a portion of the council. And so for the public body to weigh in on administrative matters, that's why. And so my apologies as a subcommittee member for not clarifying that portion. But I think my offering for that, because I do believe that there was great community interest and there's been great community support for the work that Chief Share has done, is just to continue to support. So we would just maybe thank council for their encouragement of the city's open process and public involvement, and rather than ensuring that we're a portion of that, because by extension, we are public members individually. So it wouldn't be us, it would be encouraging the public. So my apologies.
No, you're hitting it, Jen, really. And the council definitely wants, if you have any suggestions or recommendations or whatever, that you can contact. We encourage you to contact the city manager's office, and they have the hiring process. And if you have suggestions on how it could be done different, I know that we have traditionally, now the council hires the judges and the city attorney and our council, the judges and city prosecutor and city manager. And and we really encourage very strongly that as much public is involved in that selection process as possible. I've been involved in multiple hirings of those positions before, and have been very impressed with the turnout with the citizens. And you can do that individually. We just can't do that as a committee.
Definitely. I understand the number 3. I'm asking about number 2, which is that, so this is include existing SPAC committee members in selection process of new committee members. I'm trying to clarify that new committee members don't fall under the city manager and don't fall under the same charter that you're referencing that the city attorney provided you with. That's what I'm confused by.
Oh, I get it. Okay, I see your.
I told, yeah.
No, I get it.
Okay.
So,
okay. Thank you.
I get that, and I kind of combine the two, but the selection process for committee members has been held within the council and the individual interviews.
Exactly.
I think that is a preferred method, but that is something that we actually are in the moving towards looking at the committees, commissions, and taking out some of the clunkiness that's been occurring. So that's a work in process and in progress. And as you know, the clock of government ticks really slow, but that actually is that's on the plate already.
Awesome. But in terms of the scope that you were citing, so we should get rid of number 3, which I totally understand that.
Yeah,
but number 2, there's no issue in keeping that if the committee feels comfortable suggesting that.
And if, as a committee member, not as a counselor, I would be uncomfortable with that, only because then it may across the board affect every committee. And that, I think, because it is difficult to manage in the first place with all the committees, it would just add another layer or level of clunkiness on selection. And frankly, we don't have people lined up. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, we've got a couple of thoughts on number 2. Is someone else want to give some thoughts? Yes, Carla.
Can I ask what the intent is for including us? Has something changed where it used to be one way and now it's something different? I'm just curious.
Brittany, can you speak to that?
I actually might suggest Michael speak to that one because yeah, I had some input to give there.
Yeah, I don't have a dog in this fight, but there was a time where they, we reviewed things and asked for our recommendation. That was fine. But it is the responsibility and the charge and the ownership of the council to do that. So I don't think we're trying to interfere with that. We're just trying to be helpful.
Would a compromise, I'm always trying to find a compromise, we would invite the city council to, if they want recommendations, to consider contacting SPAC, something along those lines? Does that work? Does that not work? Does that put an extra layer on the city council that they're, and of course, we're just saying this is a thought we have. They can do with whatever they want with it. But Joe, tell me how off I am on that one.
You're off a little ways.
Okay.
And everybody needs to understand too is that Barry and I have known each other for quite a bit, so I can get away with jabbing him once in a while. So especially when he can't jab back. So yeah, I think that would add a layer, and we are trying to smooth the process and to go through. For example, somebody has an application and you have the staff member providing the briefing of the applicants, and the staff member says, well, this person and this person has been recommended by the council. There's been some council members in the past have been looking at that as saying, that really is putting a shadow over the other applicants. And we don't necessarily want to have any negative thing over this, all the applicants. We want all the applicants to have an equal shot at what they want to do. And so that's where I think, because it's an ultimately the decision of the council is where we've gone with that, saying we want to talk to everybody. We don't want to shoot anybody down before they get here.
So, okay. We also, right, as members of the SPAC, we can invite people to apply.
Oh, absolutely. That's
right.
that. I really hope for that very much.
Yeah.
So I would agree to strike it.
Okay. Then, and let's go ahead. Are we okay to strike number 2 as well? 2 bullet points. Everyone okay? Okay.
I just want to voice that I oppose striking it. I would
Okay.
personally like to hear council discuss that matter, because this was specifically about the interview process itself, not the application process. And I had a lot of concerns watching the last round of interviews, and this is in no means like a comment on who was selected. I'm really glad we have the folks here, but I think adding objectivity to that process is something that would be super, super important to do. And so yeah, I am opposed to striking it.
Okay.
I got a comment here.
Yes,
So I'm
thank you.
just trying to follow along here. Obviously, this is all new to me. So I'm trying to understand. So the comment is this referring to the interview recently for the SPAC? So is this is because the SPAC committee members can't actually help select the new SPAC new community members? Is that what I'm trying to understand here?
I think it's twofold. I think it's again, we're just recommending that council discuss the possibility of doing this. There's no like actual anything being implemented, but yeah, I think it's twofold in terms of getting SPAC input on the interviewees, and then also having kind of clear criteria for what they're looking for in successful interviews.
For new committee members of SPAC.
Exactly.
Okay, and I will honestly agree with you on that. I would think at least the interview process, and maybe I know I'm not trying to make things difficult, but someone who's, Michael's done it for a while. Obviously, you're doing it, Jen's in it. You guys being a part of the interview process, I agree with that. But this is new to me, not understanding exactly how the city manager and the council aspect works. But I would think that you guys, I should say us now, but the SPAC committee would be a part of the interview process of the people who have applied for it, or have some say. That's
Thank you,
just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you speaking up. Thank you. I'm going to go, I think it's Joe, then Eric, and then Jonathan is the way I saw it.
Thank you, Barry. So you said a word, Brittany, that caused me to raise my hand when you said for the board or this committee to also help establish criteria. That's the word you used for selection. And so I would absolutely oppose that, and that council has that, and it's totally in the council's wheelhouse that they establish the criteria for the volunteers and what the criteria for successful application. So I want to make sure that wasn't part of this recommendation. I don't think that the recommendation should go forward as written.
Eric, and then we'll go to Jonathan.
Thanks, Barry. Knowing that this could serve as a precedent for other commissions, other committees that the council appoints members to, I do agree with Joe in the fact that it could be potentially problematic for this committee to be making recommendations or providing input into selection of new committee members. And as an example, you could envision where like the planning commission, new members that would be added to the planning commission based on recommendations from existing members who have alignment with certain aspects of the development community could shift the purview or focus of that commission, which has a very direct impact on the city in a variety of different ways that may or may not be in the best interest of the community. So I think that is within council's purview uniquely, although they can choose to take into consideration or not any commentary from the committee. But I think those reservations aside, I do feel it's prudent to at least put the recommendation for them to consider and comment on it. And they may or may not have those same concerns.
Thank you. Jonathan.
I was just going to say, kind of along the same lines, is that if you have too much influence and input from the folks that are already on the committee, then you're going to maintain the same ideas and agendas versus having new people come in with different ideas and agendas. By all means, I think that the best way to have people on the committee that align with the values and things that we have in place are to clearly show and communicate those values to the council all the time, so the council will know by our actions and how we conduct ourselves the type of person that's going to align with the overall mission, which is the betterment of the community.
Okay, we've heard from most everyone, and we may not reach a consensus. And so, but ideally, I love to have us work to a consensus, but I'm also wanting to make sure that we have time for some of the other items. We could do I believe, just a complete straight up vote on whether we would include that or not. And then I guess we see where we are. We'll let, again, I don't know the protocol for city, but would it just be majority rules on this? And so is that okay if we, well, we're not gonna take 10 minutes to discuss that. So I'm not going to be able to see everyone, but if you would like to include bullet point 2, would you raise your hand, please? Okay, I see 1 from Brittany. Am I missing anyone else? Okay. If I'm not missing anyone else, I believe then that the committee will
Eric?
I think Eric did.
I voted in favor, Barry. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. I don't see everybody. I see 3 people or 4 people and it changes, but so my apologies.
Hey, Jessica.
Your vote does count.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so, boy, that's not good to just say, only Brittany. Okay, but if it's only Eric and Brittany at this point, we will not include bullet point 2. I'd like to continue to move on if that's acceptable. Okay. The final question for consideration and discussion, the committee member and SPAC role clarity. I love this. And so we're asking the committee membership and SPAC for some role clarity, and then can we have engagement with other forms of community and outreach? Are you content with that as a part of that recommendation page, that 4th bullet point? Everyone okay with that one? Does that raise any questions or concern? Eric's okay. Any questions or concerns? Again, now I don't see everyone. Joe.
Sorry. I've been looking at these because it directly affects council and what they're seeing. Where it says, how does council see boards and commissions role in a broader civic engagement? It's a great question. I think that should stay.
Right.
And I am repeating myself too, is that we are working over the clunkiness of some of these committees and commissions, and are going to actively clarify many of those things. We're probably going to, it's not official or anything like that, but probably going to create our own subcommittee and start going through all the committees and clarifying all these things. Don't think that it's SPAC has got the only clunkiness. Trust me. So that is definitely on board and on the menu. In regards to, can SPAC present to other committees as a form of community outreach engagement? That's a fair question. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I just wanted to give some background in regards to, it is coming from us, coming from me to the council, and the perception would be is, okay, all the committees then should be able to see, or based on this, present to all the other committees. And so when now we have these committees making presentations to all the other committees, and that in itself, I think would, I don't know what the right word is, but it would, I think, liquefy or break down the autonomy of each one of these committees that are specifically picked by the council, if that makes any sense. But I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and oppose anything. I think the first question is correct, or fine, no problem. But as far as presenting to other committees, I think then that would be a meetings issue and changing up how the committees are being run. So
I want to go to Carlin and just make a point of clarification. And we did have, now we have a little less than 5 minutes. So
and individuals, by the way, I'm sorry, individuals can go to any committee they want and provide public comment as an individual. That would be great.
Carla?
I think kind of to Joe's point, maybe the word present, I have concerns around. Does it really mean like coordinate? Is that really what we mean, or do we mean present?
That's a good question. I think this question came up as part of just our conversations on broader community engagement, in terms of if another commission is interested in knowing just like what SPAC does, can we join one of their sessions and just talk about, like, it kind of was part of that role clarity question too, and the community confusion around what SPAC does. It was like, if another, if there's a different audience available through a different committee, can we go talk to them and tell them about what we do in hopes that their audience would also receive that information? So I think present was the word, I guess, but we can include both too.
Sorry, Brittany, I'm going to jump in and just add sort of what I thought when I read this, when we were talking about it. I'm not sure that present was really where my head was at, but I think it was more in gathering. And I think as a committee, we've talked about our desire to ensure that we really are engaging with our community. And as our policy review and feedback opportunities come up, that we're seeking input from our different communities and community groups and really helping facilitate that. So in my mind, I think that this was more of like, if for whatever reason on a coming agenda, we had something related to, collision or, bicycle pedestrian or things like that, that might overlap with another purview, or would that they were a venue to gather additional feedback and information that we would then bring back to this committee and say, thanks so much. I had the opportunity to speak with the Bike Ped Committee, and this is how it impacted, their work. Feedback for Springfield Police, because again, we're not a policy body, we're really an engagement body. So I think that in my interpretation of this sort of question was, to what extent would you like us to engage with other existing committees?
I'm wondering if we change the word from present to share, and simply we ask the question, and then the city council can give us direction. We can just ask the question and go from there. And we have like a minute. So I'm going to try to, if we can live with that, let's ask the question, let city council give their response and direction, and then we can go further with it. I'm going to make a suggestion. I know, Terry, I think your hand's up.
That's okay. I was just going to suggest can SPAC communicate with the other committees, share with, that's fine too, either one.
Share with, communicate with, yes. Here's my second thought, because there's no way we're going to get to goals. By the way, I love the summary. I thought it was so impressive how well that was recorded. I'm wondering if we report to the city council that we're going to be working on our goals, because and we can use this as a guide, but we're not ready to present this because there's no way tonight we're going to be able to cover goals for the following year. And so I would like to recommend we take that out of the presentation and maybe just a line that says the SPAC will be working on our goals for 2022. Is that acceptable to folks?
Yes.
And
Yes.
that gives us some time to really read through. Again, great work. I do not want to undersell how great this work is. And then we can go through that and say, does these goals fit for us as a team? And are there some that we want to add? Because I bet the three of you anticipated we would make adjustments. And would that be okay if we take out and say we're going to be establishing goals in this new year? Okay, so I'm asking that question. Is that acceptable? Is that not acceptable to anyone? So you'd speak up if you're not content with that. Very good. So we are ready to present this to the city council on the, I think it's the 22nd. You will get an invitation to join that meeting. Jessica said you all have replied or said yes to attending, I believe. So thank you for that. That's a great thing that our whole team is going to be there. And we'll learn in this process. We'll share this with them. We'll get feedback and we'll learn and we'll do it even better next time. So great work from our subcommittee again. Okay.
I can't find, my hand is missing, so I can't raise it. I apologize.
That's okay.
So that I understand how to package this. Is this like there's been no vote? So are we?
Okay, thank you.
Are you intending to update this draft, leave it in draft and share it? Or are we removing the goals section with the goals to be communicated? I will pull your exact language from the recording, I promise. I'll hit it exactly. But I can make that modification And it sounds like the remainder of the annual report was acceptable. I don't know if you had the time to discuss it. But if, I mean, are we converting it to a final draft with that modification and you're going to vote?
That would be, thank you for that reminder. I was trying to make sure we got through it. I do think we need a vote to change it from draft to final presentation with the changes that we've made tonight. And so I'm going to see if we can just do that. Do I have someone that would affirm the fact that we want to change this from a draft with the changes made to a presentation to the city council at our meeting with them this month? Is
I'll
anyone?
make a motion that we convert this to a final and present as is with the corrections.
Thank you. Second, anyone? Michael, thank you. All in favor? This time I can see you all. I think, would you raise your hand if you're in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay. Wow. Great work, everyone. And
good meeting.
And I really am impressed with everyone just hanging in there and getting us through this. So any other business that we need to address before we close tonight? Okay, I will see you all on Zoom on the 22nd. And again, appreciate your good work. It is 7:34 and our meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.